So first of all, a warm welcome to all of you who are attending this webinar. Great to see you here. Just so that you're aware, first of all, if you'd like to put any questions you have for the panel in the chat box, and we'll pick them up after our panel discussion. And secondly, also that we are going to be running a short poll, 3 short polls in fact. So I'd be very grateful if you could all answer those questions. And if they don't apply to you, don't worry. But I mean, you do your best to answer them. I think one may be a little bit more difficult. Could I also ask you to all mute yourselves, just in case we have dogs, babies, or other occurrences in your houses, so that we can just have silence for the panelists. So that would be very good. Okay, so first of all, let me share my screen with you. Right, the value of chartership, that's what we are here to discuss. And again, a welcome to you. If I could introduce myself, I'm Eva Maclaine. I'm a founding chartered practitioner. That is slightly different. It shows that we did it, I think it was pre-2018, something like that. And it was a different form of test, if you like, altogether. No easier than it is now, for sure. They're all, you know, challenging, I suppose, in some ways. And they still have the same basic 3 pillars of ethics and leadership and strategy. But we had to do an individual interview with people, and also had to write. I think it was 4,000 words as well, so that was quite challenging, definitely. So I specialize in my day job in reputation management and issues in stakeholder management. I work both internationally and in the UK as well. I've been on the CIPR International Committee for very, very many years. And now I've been a past chair, as some of one other person has in our discussion, but also I'm now a special advisor to the committee, and I was previously a board director of the CIPR. So just to tell you what we're going to do today. Today we're going to find out what a charter is, to explain a little bit of our CIPR's journey to chartered status. What does being a practitioner actually means for us all, and who can apply. There'll be an introduction to the panel next, and we'll have a discussion until about 1:40 British Standard Time. And then we're delighted that we'll be able to answer your questions at that point, I hope, and we'll be closing at 2. So that's the plan for today. So what is a charter, first of all? Well, it's a written document which has been granted by the Queen, by the Privy Council. And it's really granted to institutes in particular, and it outlines the rights and responsibilities that we have, because and also, you know, what we have to do to maintain that chartership. So I suppose the most famous one is the Magna Carta, which is just on the right of the screen. You can't quite see it because of the discussion panel, but that was granted by King John, the English King John, and his barons, and specified certain liberties for the English people. So that is probably the earliest charter of ever. But since the 14th century in the UK, we've been granting charters to livery companies and professional institutes in particular. They're given, as I said, by the Queen and by the Privy Council. And interestingly, any amendments to that charter have to be agreed by the Queen and by the Privy Council. Now, we were actually given our chartership in 2005, but it wasn't a straightforward journey. It's quite a complex course, which Anne Gregory, who some of you may know, but even more, I'm sure, have definitely heard of Anne Gregory. And she was then the president of what was the Institute of Public Relations. And she had to oversee the whole process. Now, we have to comply with many stipulations, certainly, of the Privy Council. And the thing that I find quite the most interesting is that we have to work in the public interest and for the public good. And that, I think, is a sort of cornerstone of what chartership means. Interestingly, at the CPD, they asked us to include more on management and leadership. So that was an interesting point, I thought. And we're expected to be active in public affairs. And we have a right of consultation by the government on anything which pertains to public relations. So what does it actually mean for us as practitioners? It's all very well the institute being chartered, but does it have any effect on us at all? Well, as I said, we were granted it in 2005, but for the institute, I think it demonstrates that it has preeminence, first of all, in all of PR institutes. We have stability, and that there's a permanence in our field of public relations. But as chartered practitioners, I think it shows your colleagues and your employers and clients, of course, that you have that breadth of experience which can be expected of a chartered practitioner, that you have strategic capabilities, that you understand leadership, and that you really are somebody of note in your own chosen field. And of course, that important final commitment to ethical practice, because that goes absolutely hand in hand. So in short, I think really what being a chartered practitioner means is that it is a trusted badge of professionalism and provides a competitive edge for PR professionals. Now, I mentioned polls, and I think I'd like to have the first poll up, if I may, and do your best to answer it if you can. I'll give you a very short time to answer it. So what are the best ways to maintain chartership? Doing nothing, locking CPD points, put it into practice, and invite someone to get chartered. Right, hope you've all done that. There's a result very quickly. Logging 60 CPD points. Maintaining chartership, but that's the bare minimum that you have to do. Put it into practice. Yes, I think that's very important. And I love the fact that somebody said, some people said, invite someone to get chartered. That's all very good indeed. Absolutely. Okay. Right. So who's eligible to get chartered? First of all, you have to be a CIPR member or a fellow. You have to be a member of the Institute. You have to have been logging your CPD with CIPR or possibly with another recognized scheme. So like the Chartered Institute of Management, for example, if you're doing their CPD, you'd be eligible to stand for chartership here. Failing that, if you don't have that, you could have a letter from your employer saying that you've undertaken professional development training. So that's another way of doing it. Sorry, I missed something. So I just wanted also to say that that a recent report by the CIPR and the Chartered Institute of Marketing found that although the majority of people thought, sadly, that to be chartered in PR didn't mean quite as much as it did if you were in an engineering, say, or another profession. But everybody thought that becoming chartered really provides a competitive edge for marketing and PR professionals. Okay, now for the panel discussion, but I think, could we have another poll as well, please, the third poll? So are you thinking about getting chartered? Yes, not sure, already chartered? No. Good. Let's see what everybody thought. Oh, well, most of you are getting chartered. I don't know. I know there are a few chartered practitioners already on the call. So I don't know whether that's some of them who aren't thinking, obviously, of getting chartered because you are doing it. I hope that everybody who isn't chartered really considers it, because I do think it's really valuable to be chartered. And I'm sure you will find out why when we talk to the other panelists. I'm not sure yet if I'm ready in terms of time or skills. Well, that's something we'll be discussing. In fact, interestingly, I saw that somebody wrote a blog and they had only 5 years experience, but felt that, and they passed, they got their chartership. But obviously you do have to have a lot of experience in order to deal with the chartership day, because you are asked to draw on your experience. So I think that'll be something which will come out. So yes, I'm already chartered, quite a few of them. Okay, great, lovely, thanks for those results. And now let me introduce the panel. If the panel could unmute themselves, please, that would be really great. We won't hear what you're saying otherwise. So first of all, on my screen anyway, Taazima Kala in the red top. Taazima, hello, she's a chartered member of the CIPR and has been a member since 2014, but chartered since 2020. And she's based in Botswana. We have a really international panel today, so I think that's very exciting in itself. She is currently the general manager and lead consultant of HOTWA in Africa. And she's a member of the PR Institute of Southern Africa and sits on various boards, including the Association of Communications Agency Botswana. So next on my screen is Andras Sztaniszlav, who's wearing a blue shirt. Hi, Tatiana. Hello, Andras. Andras is a long-standing member of CIPR International Committee, nearly as long as I have, practically. He's a chartered practitioner as well, and a fellow, and is now vice chair of our committee. And he was a past chair for 3 years, actually, as well. His day job is senior strategic communications consultant for a variety of people and clients. He works in a great many countries and is now based in Budapest in Hungary. He was a chair for 3 years as well. And apart from his daily job, he's also president of the Hungarian association, PR association, HUPRA, with whom we signed an agreement, actually, a joint agreement a few years ago. And he's also a board member of ECO. So next on my screen, thank you, Andras, next on my screen is Saad Al Rubaiaan. And Rubaiaan is a chartered PR practitioner and a CSR advisor. He's a QA professional, and he's served both in private and governmental sectors of communications. He's also a regular writer on communication matters in Arabic. So a big welcome to you, Saad, as well. And on my right now, we have Sudha Singh, who is founder of the Purpose Room, which is a virtual reputation consultancy advising clients on ESG, sustainability, and inclusion. She's also a certified EDI trainer and advises clients on measurable frameworks for organizational change. She's a CIPR International member, not quite as long-standing as Andras, but very valuable anyway. Thank you very much, Sudha, for being on it as well. And is also a member of the PRCA and on various other committees. She hosts her own podcast, which I recommend to you, The Elephant in the Room. So that is the panel. And I think we can get going on the questions. Right, so let's start. Just you'll have to bear with me a second, because I haven't got the questions in front of me, but that we're dealing with. But first of all, I think we're discussing why you decided to get chartered and what led you to that. So Andras, let's start off with you first.
Okay, so I made my chartership assessment during COVID, so in 2020. And there were two reasons why I didn't want to do the chartership. One, because I thought it was for very, very senior people. I mean, like more senior than I was. I'm in a market for 20 years now, but I still felt too young for this for this assessment. And the other thing, which is very personal, I really hate exams, and I didn't want to take any additional exams. So that was the two reasons why I didn't want to get chartered. But the reasons why I actually made it is that I made a promise to myself when I became a leader, a vice chair, then a chair for CIPR International Committee, that this is something I need to take. So this is an assessment, this is a test which I really need to take when I'm in a position. Also, I was really encouraged by my very good mentor in CIPR International Committee, who just basically pushed me towards getting chartered, and you are that one, that mentor, Eva. So you were one of the arguments why I decided to do that as well. But probably the most professional reason why I did it is that throughout the process, I needed to just keep a mirror against my past career, against my 15 to 20 years. And it was not an exam I need to prepare for, but it was, for me, the whole preparation and the whole reason was to get over my whole career and take the lessons which I've learned throughout the 15 to 20 years of experience. And that was probably the main reason why I wanted to take this test, to just have a view on my past career and set up a new route for the next 15 to 20 years. You're on mute. Eva, you're still on mute.
Right, I should be heard now.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
I was going to say thank you very much. That was very comprehensive indeed. So thank you for that. And I think, Taazima, you're quite recently chartered, I believe, aren't you? 2020 it wasn't 2 years ago. Can you also just pick up on that as to why you decided to get chartered?
Great, thank you, Eva. Andras is so honest. And the funny thing is I had a similar worry, except he had 20 years behind him. I had about 8. I was keen to do it because I genuinely felt like I'd reached that point in my career where I hadn't perhaps invested in my own growth as much. And I'd always looked at the CIPR, even remotely, as a platform for learning for growth. And I think the one thing I'd never leveraged as much was the networking or the mentorship or any of the very human elements. And 2 people I'd always looked at with a great deal of admiration were actually Stephen Waddington and Ella Minty, who ended up being my assessor on the day. And the more I followed sort of their careers, their trajectories, the more I realized there are so many platforms that actually legitimize and give a little more confidence and credibility to what I'm doing. And that's something that I personally felt I needed a lot more of. So that was my biggest push. My biggest fear was very similar to Andras's. I am mortified of assessments or examinations of any form. So that was a little bit scary, but I think the preparation, which we'll tackle later, certainly changed my perception.
Thank you. Sudha, I think the same question to you. Could you tell me why you decided to get chartered?
Yeah, so I have around 30 years of experience, and through my career, I did not find the time to, engage in a focused way on any learning and development activities, except I think in 2006, I took a step back and I decided to spend 3 months just going through the CIPR courses. And in 2018, when I stepped back from agency life, I found the time I was also trying to, sort of look at myself, re-look at who I was and what I was doing and where I was going. Like Andras mentioned and Taazima mentioned, we do a lot of work, but we don't often have time to ruminate over what we are doing and how we are doing. And, who is looking at our work? Are we growing with that or not? And so I had decided that I would invest time in learning, and that would be active learning. And the CIPR was, of course, the first call for that. And, to give as Taazima mentioned, to legitimize all of this experience, the learning that you do, the work that you do with clients, just who you are. I think it was so important to do that. So I was very gung-ho about it because it was at a phase where I was making a big change, moving away from one career to another career, redefining who I was. So I was ready for it. And also I knew that at that stage, because I was going to be on my own or set up a consultancy, I needed that accreditation. I needed that extra, that extra boost that I would get with a chartership with my name, and I really wanted to do that. So I didn't have any fears. It was about, I cannot miss this year, because 2018 was when I started thinking about it, and 2020 is when I did it finally. And I think it is so essential. We've seen in the last 2 years how essential it is for PR professionals to actually go through an accreditation independent assessment process. We are jostling for a seat at the table. We want to advise the C-suite, but all those professionals have some sort of accreditation. They come from an industry where they have specific courses that accredit them to do their job. Our industry is not like that. People come in from all directions, and which is great. We have great experience, but there has to be a baseline and a benchmark for where we are going. And I think this is what the accreditation process and chartership, that is what was my aspiration from the chartership assessment. I can keep speaking about it for a long time, but I think I need to give Saad a chance.
Okay, that's great. Thanks a lot. Saad, I'm going to ask you to also briefly explain why you decided to go for chartership, but also perhaps you could just tell me what was the sort of most daunting part of preparing for the chartership? What did you find the most difficult and the most worrying, if you like?
Sure. I think most of or all of the panelists, we get chartered in 2020. And that year was the year where the CIPR offered the chartership online. And for us as international practitioners, I think this is a huge advantage, and we should appreciate this step because it made it easier for us to get chartered in terms of a preparation and an application. To me, my experience, my professional experience was in the government sector and international agencies, which is based in the Middle East region. In 2015, I decided to start up my own boutique agency. And I got, like many of my colleagues who started their new business, working heavily on the business model, building the team, working most of the time on the business development side, and never think about ourselves. By 2020, when things got slower, I thought that was a good time to think about myself. Usually when we are in a corporate world, we have a HR team who take care of our career path and about our development. But I found after 5 or 6 years in running my own business that I'm the only responsible person who should consider and on his or her career path. To answer your question about the preparation, being an online experience, it was very helpful to me. Because I was always thinking of the 3 pillars. It's very well structured exam. You have too many resources on the CIPR website. I started to contact some of my colleagues and fellows who already get chartered before me to ask them about their experience, although they have done it in person. But I got insights about the experience and what to expect. And all of these resources, maybe the golden, if I would say, tip which I got for the preparation is that reflect on your personal experience. It's not an exam, it's a reflection. So try to reflect on the 3 pillars: leadership, strategy, and ethics, and you will do well. You will find just some kind of a common sense, I would say.
Eva, can I just
yes,
can I just make a point?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So I think in the preparation, one thing that I missed saying, which I found the most daunting, was staying focused and limiting myself, because there is so much once, for people like me who haven't gone back to doing this thing, everything is interesting. And you can be very scattered. You want to, consume as much as knowledge and buy all the books and read all the resources. So you have to get focused on that. You don't need to do everything. You need some of the essentials and fundamentals. And like Saad mentioned, it is about your experience. So for me, it was 28 years of experience, thinking about how am I going to dilute and which one of these examples would best work. So I think those were my big challenges for me.
Excellent, thanks very much. Okay, and in fact, the CIPR also provides quite a lot of help, I think, as well in the documents which they send you. So you're not just left alone to flounder around without any information. Okay, but because of time, I'm going to move on to hearing about the day itself. And what did you feel like going into this assessment? What was your feeling, Andras?
Honestly, again, I was extremely nervous because I still felt that it was going to be an exam and a test. And then it turned out to be a very, very good discussion where I could share most of my experience through questions, but it was a discussion of like a true group discussion. So 3 other professionals were in the same group with the assessor, and we discussed the topic and we shared our experiences and we had questions towards each other as well. So it was really not like a test when an assessor just asked the question and you have to have the real right answer. So basically I was just smiling into myself throughout the day that I was so nervous because I felt it was going to be like an exam, and it was one of the best experiences. But just one note back to the preparation. I completely agree with Saad, because the preparation, I mean, to me the preparation part was the most exciting part, also as challenging, because as Sudha has mentioned, you have to just filter your experience of several decades, but it was really, really good to go through your experiences and try to find the right lessons you have learned, and not necessarily for taking this assessment, but for yourself. So the exam itself, I mean, the assessment day itself, was nothing very serious, because you could talk about your own career, and it made it very, very easy for me.
Excellent. And Taazima, what were the trainers like? Sudha mentioned, I think, Sudha, did you mention Elementi before, or was it you?
No.
It was
Taazima who mentioned.
Elementi was one of them. Obviously, I know Ella very well. I know what she's like. She's very encouraging, I think, really, as a trainer. What was your experience of the trainer?
She was the toughest one. She was the toughest assessor in my day.
Yes, yes. But very nice.
Yeah.
And very good at what she does in that respect. What about the other trainer? What I don't want you to libel anybody, but how did you experience the other trainer? Were they good?
It was fantastic. I mean, similar to Andras, I was terribly nervous. I thought it would be a much more rigorous, structured, and while it was certainly very professional, it was very fluid. It was very discussion, very conversational. And I still remember I had Emily, I'm not sure if I pronounced her name correctly, Jane, Jonathan Cross, and Ella Minty, and they were supportive but assessing at the same time. So it was very much almost prompting, almost bringing out the best in you, sensing you're quite nervous, but at the same time challenging. And I think what made it even more rewarding was everyone in that assessment room was in the same position. We're all quite eager, quite keen, trying to put your best foot forward, but at the same time, it gave an incredible depth of perspective. Everybody had different outlooks on things, everybody had a different perspective. And I think it forced me more than ever before, I think, to move away from a very singular sort of thought process to considering the bigger picture of the industry. And I think that's what made it one of the more enjoyable parts.
Gosh, you're all making me feel I wish I'd done your type of chartership rather than my very solitary experience when I did it myself. Could I also ask all our participants to put any questions you may have in the chat box, because we'll be coming to questions relatively soon. And Saad, how did you feel when you were told that you were successful? Was it wonderful?
Yes, indeed. To me, it was really great news, considering that I found that the chartership is not well known in in this part of my region. I found out that I'm the only chartered person within the GCC region, which consists of 6 countries within my geographic area. So I felt somehow responsible to spread word about it. I spoke to CIPR on how to help out in letting more people from my region to take the chartership. And I wrote a blog, I remember, after that, on my experience, reflecting on that experience. I remember also a private message to the president, Jenny.
Jenny Field, yeah.
Jenny Field, yeah. Also confirming that that this experience is very helpful, but unfortunately it is not very popular in our region. And I was suggesting that we might have the chartership in several languages, including Arabic, to be more inclusive.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Very interesting, very interesting. Do you know if they're following up on that at all?
I should do the follow-up. I documented that on the blog post and the CIPR and influence, but I should follow up from my.
Very, very good. That's
for
really
reminding me. Yeah.
Okay, so well, first of all, just before we carry on, I want to say that I'm incredibly pleased that Anne Gregory has joined us. I mentioned Anne earlier on in my presentation about the Chartership's journey, if you like, to Chartership for the Institute, and she's actually here with us. So hello, Anne. Great to see you. Hello. Thanks for coming.
You should be late.
No, it's lovely to see you. You missed the bit about the history, but you know that anyway. So you're all chartered now. Does it end there? Do you stop? Or are you building on that experience? Sudha.
So I think chartership is, the start of a journey where you've committed to personal excellence, personal and professional excellence. And I think one of the most important things for me in the chartership was, getting back to ethics and the CIPR code of conduct, and just understanding how it plays out for our industry and for professionals in the world that we live in today. It's always been relevant, but it sort of reignited my interest in it. So I have, like all of us at the chartered exam, we had to, commit to 2 years of CPD learning. You had to give a plan. And as per my plan, the 3 things that I committed to was on ethics, diversity and inclusion. And the 3rd thing was around leadership. And I have been working on all of these 3 issues through either the PRCA or the CIPR or my own personal work that I do. I think it is very important for us to continuously develop and continuously learn to stay relevant in today's world. The world is changing so fast. If you look at technology, if you look at, not just technology, on how we live, how we work, different people want to do different things. Just on accepting the differences and going forward, I think is going to be a challenge unless you commit to learning, and unless you commit to learning in a way that is structured. And I think that is what the chartership does. And I think CIPR deserves a lot of credit for doing it. I hate that this year I did my CPD right at the end. I had thought I'd be finished by October because I had started but I couldn't, and I was still stretched till the end. But I logged on around, I think, 400 points, and it's like a personal challenge, and I take it up as this thing that I need to make time. You know, if I'm working, I need to make time for staying relevant in this world and giving my best rather than being mediocre. I don't want to do that, and I think that's what Chartership does for people. Eva, you're mute. Your mic is off. Yeah.
Terrible. You'd think I'd have learned after 2 years in being banished. So I just wanted to ask Saad before we wind up this bit, and so not if you can do it fairly quickly. Clearly, you need to pay some money towards getting a chartership. What do you think is the return on investment in doing a chartership? How valuable do you think it was?
The value, you could measure it in several, let's say, pillars. One of them is if you are a business owner, like myself as entrepreneur running your agency, you will see the value when you introduce yourself to clients. Speaking of a personal experience, I'm based in Dubai and competing with international agencies. As one of the unique selling points, which I always show to my potential clients, is that I'm a chartered practitioner. And that's giving years of expertise, which I have in the government communication in specific, for example. The other thing, which is the writing. I write for several publications, including Forbes and Harvard Business Review, the Arabic editions. And when I introduce myself as someone who has academic qualification, professional accreditation, as well as experience, that's added something to my portfolio, and I got a better chance to write thought leadership articles to the community of leadership and communications. Lastly, I've applied for several regional awards. 4 of them we have made it to the as a person and as an agency to the finalists, where the chartership was a key element and component of these entries. So these are 3 or 4 ways which I could mention as a return of investment, which I saw the value of the chartership. And the most, of course, valuable thing is the practice of what you will get. By the end of the day, it's like a driving license. When you pass the test, you don't park the car in your home. You just use it to reach points that you've never been there. So that's what I'm trying to do with the chartership.
Excellent, thank you. Very well covered. Okay, we're now going to go on to the questions from the audience. And I'm going to kick off with the first one I saw from Stephen, who says, how many CIPR CPD points do I need? I'm going to answer that because it's a very simple one. You need 60, but you could have 600. So just do as many as you like, but 60 is the absolute minimum. And of those, 5 points have to be in ethics. And you have to be doing that CPD when you're applying. Right, the next one. Sorry, Andras.
Yeah. Just to interrupt and just to put it into a bigger picture. So you have to have 2 consecutive years of doing CPD to get accredited status, which is an automatic recognition. And then after the 3rd year, as far as I know, you can apply for the chartership status. So out of these CPD cycles, when you have to collect 60 plus points every year, you have to have 3 years, and then you can apply for the chartership assessment.
2 years, I think, yes.
2 years, and you can apply for it?
Yes.
Okay.
Next question from Binu. Jacob, what is the Chartership participant breakdown between internal, external and external comms? I'm not sure that we have that information. I'm asking to find out if the assessment will help those interested in becoming chartered and will be able to draw from experiences that are not solely focused on external comms or vice versa. Taazima, I'm sure you can answer that. They're worried that if they're an internal consultant, in-house consultant, that they won't be able to draw on lessons from their experience.
I don't think that would disadvantage or be a factor at all, because I think it was quite a broad assessment. I think those 3 criteria for ethics, strategy, and leadership straddle across both. And I certainly found some people in my assessment group focused a little more on internal than external and vice versa. Similarly, quite a few people were agency like I am, whereas a lot of people were in-house in a corporate or a public sector.
Yes.
And equally, all were assessed and successful on that date as well.
Excellent. If anybody has anything to add to any of the questions, then
I can add to that. So in my group, at my assessment, we had 2 people who worked in-house and myself, who is a freelancer. So we were the 3 of us, and 1 person who worked for one of the ministries. So the department, he was working on internal communications, basically purely on internal communication, and that wasn't a problem at all.
Excellent. Next question from Katie Davidson. She's actually looking to register for a Chartership Day soon. So congratulations, well done, Katie, that's very good news. How much preparation time do you think you needed? And is it worthwhile having a mentor or a buddy? We were talking, I think most of us have offered ourselves to be buddies for the scheme. So how worthwhile is it having a buddy, somebody like us? And she says she has 15 years PR communications experience within the public and private sectors and is currently accredited. She keeps putting off registering for the assessment because of not knowing exactly what's involved. Okay, well, I think, can we tackle how much preparation you need, first of all? How much would you say? Sudha, what would you say? How much preparation do you need?
I think you need a fair amount of preparation. You should be ready to commit to some time, either on a weekend or during the weekdays, at least a couple of days a week, for maybe 3, 4, 5 weeks at least, I would say, so that you are not a wreck when you arrive at your exam or your assessment. And on mentorship, I think the CIPR has a lot of resources, a lot of people, chartered people who are chartered, who you could speak to, who would help you address some of the issues. And I think what helped me most in my preparation was not just the CIPR webinars, etc., but speaking to someone who was chartered, and they gave me some very good advice. It was not around the actual content, but on how you conduct yourself during the session. And it is about ensuring that everybody is able to speak. And just because you think you know more, you're not hogging all the time, and you're giving other people a chance, and you're engaging in a positive manner. So I'd say get a mentor if you see the need, if you think that, because that, again, getting a mentor is a time commitment. So think about how much time you have, and then decide on that. CIPR resources, speaking to a couple of people who have done their chartership, I think that is adequate.
Yes. Taazima, what about the actual structure of the day? Can you explain a little bit about how is it structured?
So from my experience, it was an initial kickoff with everybody being assessed on that day, and then there's breakouts for the different sessions. We tackled the different topics, those 3, ethics, strategy, and leadership, each at a time. And it was almost similar to this in a sense, a question posed by the assessor or the moderator, and almost round robining around the people on the call that day. But I think what was especially key, and I think Sudha just touched on that, is everybody gave each other room to share their view, but then there was almost a discussion based off it. If I recall, one of our assessors actually had to say, okay, let's pause now, we've got to move on, as engaging as the conversations are. And then towards the end, a bit of a break, while the assessors, I think, convened just to deliberate on things, and then came back at the end of the session. It seemed like something that would feel very long. It went by very quickly.
Really? Yes, because it is quite long. It's a day, isn't it? One way and another.
Yeah.
So, that's very interesting. Okay, I hope that sounds. Andras, you had something to say as well?
Yeah, we had a fourth session during the day while the assessors were assessing the participants, when we had to talk about our 2-year CPD plan, which was more a conversation just among ourselves, so the group, and there was no assessor involved in that time. But it was also really and extremely important and helpful for me not to get chartered, but coming up or preparing with a 2-year CPD plan for the future. Was part of the homework which we need to do as preparation. And at the fourth session, we discussed about that. And it was really interesting to explain why I built up my plan based on what kind of activities I wanted to focus on. And we shared experiences of how other resources are optional for CIPR professionals or chartered professionals to reach that goal. So even though it was not part of the pure assessment, but it was also a very useful conversation throughout the day.
Yes, that's right. That's how you should use CPD, because too often people just use it as a sort of form-filling exercise, but don't really use it to develop their skills. Oh, I hope that's answered Katie's question. There's one from Matilda here. And she would like to be chartered and would like some guidelines because she thinks it's quite a tedious journey. I don't think it is tedious. I think it's quite interesting actually, because you are learning and you are, you get what you put into it to a great extent. And if you like learning, then it's a wonderful opportunity to do just that. And she would like to talk to someone personally, to a mentor. And I think we mentioned these chartership buddies now. So do approach whoever you want to approach, and I'm sure they'd be happy to mentor you, but to buddy you through the process, certainly. Now there's one from Emmanuel here. Who appreciates the event and the organisers. That we're delighted we can help. He'd like to understand the step-by-step approach towards being a chartered member. Is there an available checklist developed for this purpose? Saad?
Yes, I think the CIPR resources, there is a checklist of preparations, but what I see it more important is the personal reflections. You have to think and craft a proper narrative of your experience in every single pillar: leadership, strategy, and ethics, and to recall real life experiences within which will fall properly within these pillars. Sometimes you will remember some incidents with missing information or not well supported by data or something. So try to find from your experience, from different phases of your experience, not necessarily the current job, but from your whole experience, relative things. That's, I think, very important, beside the resources which is available on the CIPR website.
Great. There's a question, I think Andras has also posted a link for everybody about chartership and how you can learn, a link to the CIPR information. So that will be interesting probably to anybody who's looking to do it. There's another related question from Binu. What about those who are in between jobs? Can experiences be obtained in other ways for assessment? I mean, basically, I think you know, it's a chartered PR practitioner, so it has to be based in PR. But obviously, strategy would come in, I'm sure, if you're in between jobs. Who wants to pick this question up? Anybody? If you're, go on, Sudha, will you pick it up? You're muted. You're muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't putting my hand up for that.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Well, I mean, I think that really the answer is that it is, you are learning to be a chartered practitioner, and therefore in PR, and therefore it has to be your PR skills and knowledge. But PR is a very, very broad subject, and I'm sure that, you know, everybody in their life can draw on some experiences. If you've worked at all in PR, you can't begin to undertake this if you haven't worked in PR at all. That's absolutely out of the question. I think, as Andras said, you're expected to talk about your experience. The next question from Matilda is, how can I get to speak to someone who's already chartered? I think there's a list on the CIPR website of people who are all chartered and who all are buddies. So you can really have a look at that and pick somebody out. They all lead to links to certain people. Right, have we got any?
Also, I would recommend to write down our names, and we are all happy to help you. Any of you who's interested in getting chartered. Because I think all four of us are registered buddies, so we are all very happy to help.
All five?
Oh,
Five
you
of
as
us.
well.
Yeah, I am as well, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are actually a lot of people who've gone through the process who've either written about it, blogged, published, and their experiences are also quite useful. I read a lot of that before I had done my assessment, and I found it very helpful.
That's a very good point, actually, because there's a huge amount of stuff that's written, being blogged about. Even on our CIPR International website, you'll find quite a few things. And certainly this Chartership week, the CIPR has been pushing forward various blogs, and some in Influence magazine, a lot of written material. Yes, that's a very good point, actually, Taazima.
Can I just answer
right.
Bina's question? So the question was, it means in between jobs. I don't think it's a problem at all if you're in between jobs, so you can simply apply for the chartership.
Yes, I would agree with that as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Any more questions at all? I think that's probably it in terms of the questions. What do you think is the sort of most, final one to everybody, what is the most interesting thing for you, or most pleasurable thing for you about being a chartered practitioner? I'm going to go for all of you very quickly, 1 or 2 word answers, please. Not a great treaty. Saad, start with you.
I think it's become a part of the personal brand. As you can see, my name, my business card, my email signature, my biography, everywhere. It's been attached to my name. So this is something I'm proud of.
Very good. Taazima.
Yes, I think it absolutely helps in terms of confidence and self-assurance, but it's also forced me to look in terms of the bigger picture of the responsibility now to help others in that journey and to give back to the industry in a much more tangible way.
Excellent. Andras?
You asked for 2 words, credibility and responsibility. So credibility for the past and responsibility for the future.
Very good. I do like people who listen to what I'm saying. That's very good.
You're my mentor, so.
I agree with all 3 of them, and I'd say I think that I'm proud of it, and the learning that I need to do every year, I'm proud of that too, that I'm committed to doing it.
That's very good. Very nice indeed. Okay, this is probably a perfect time to wrap up. I don't think there are any more questions there. You can approach any one of us if you have any questions which you suddenly think of later on. I'm sure any one of us would be happy to help you. Also, the CIPR has a very good offering at the moment to persuade you to become chartered. So first of all, if you book a place on a Chartership assessment day by the 31st of August, you'll receive a free 40-minute Chartership confidence and personal impact mini coaching session. I think that's fantastic. So that's going to be delivered by a CIPR trainer and an executive coach. And the sessions are going to be available from the 1st of June. So do look on the PRCA website, on the CIPR website, sorry. that was a funny slip. On the CIPR website, and you'll find the details of that. It's a really good offer. And the other offer is this Chartership Support Buddy, which is also on offer at the moment. And apparently more than 80 people have volunteered actually already to be Chartership buddies. So you've got a huge variety of people to choose from when you go on there. So that remains really for me just to thank the participants, all of you who've joined. That's very grateful to you, grateful for your questions, and I hope you found it useful. And a big, big thank you to the panel, who are wonderful. Thank you so much. All colleagues of mine on the committee, except for Taazima, but who knows, maybe you will join us sometime. It would be lovely to see you. And thank you so much for answering those questions so well and sharing your experience of the whole event. I hope it inspires lots more people to become chartered practitioners of the Chartered Institute of Public Relations. Thanks very much, and goodbye, everybody.
Thank you, Eva. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Have a lovely day.